3 doors, 3 small choices, and on the other side, 40 million cards skimmed from holiday shoppers, a security company robbed of its secret keys, and a software update that carried a ghost into thousands of networks. If you think the internet is a fortress of code and firewalls, tonight's files will change your mind. Because the most successful cyber attacks rarely kick down the front door. They knock, politely, on a side entrance labeled trust. And someone somewhere always opens it. We're walking through 3 case files that rewired how the world thinks about security. Target in 2013, RSA in 2011, and SolarWinds in 2020. 3 timelines, 3 very different techniques. Yet each one is a slow burn of the same kind of human story assumptions that held, until they didn't, start in the glow of a suburban big box store a week before Christmas. Red carts, blinking lights, that electronic chime by the automatic doors. The registers chirp with each swipe and tap. The night is ordinary. Somewhere between the swipe and the bank, for weeks, data sloshes through memory just long enough to be captured, duplicated, and sold. But the story doesn't start at the checkout. It begins in a much quieter place, a small third-party vendor whose service to fix systems. An attacker sends a message phishing or a malware-laced download to a vendor employee. It's not a coup, it's a foot in the door. Those vendor credentials, the keys they use to log into a portal designed for maintenance and invoices, become a passport into Target's network. Forget Hollywood's green code raining down the screen. What matters here is that someone trusted, someone expected, could sign in. Once inside, the attackers find themselves in a lobby. Not the vault, but the lobby connects to hallways. In simple terms, Target's internal network wasn't walled off into enough sections. That's network segmentation. It's what keeps the portal from even seeing the sensitive rooms the intruders probe. They move laterally, which is just a fancy way of saying they look for adjacent rooms with unlocked doors, file shares with passwords, systems with weak admin access, places that don't challenge a familiar face. They find the prize, registers machines with a specific job and a very vulnerable habit. When you swipe a card at a point of sale, for a split second, the data lives in the register's memory unencrypted. It has to do its job. A tiny program malware called a memory scraper, black post in this era sits on the register like a glass pressed to a wall, listening for that momentary whisper. It copies the data, slides it into a staging area on the network, and then sends it out to a server controlled by the attackers. Drip by drip, a river of numbers, alerts do rank. Security tools flag on behavior, but alerts in large organizations can be like smoke alarms during a New Year's party noise layered on noise. A few are dismissed, a few are lost, meanwhile, credit card numbers flow. By the time the breach is publicly disclosed, roughly 40 million payment card records are involved, and later, personal details from tens of millions more customers. Banks reissue cards, fraud teams work overtime. The retailer eats hundreds of millions in costs, settlements, and remediation. A CEO steps down, holiday shopping becomes a crime scene in hindsight. Why was it so effective? Because every step followed a path we trusted. Vendor access was supposed to make business efficient. Internal networks were supposed to be friendly territory. Point-of-sale machines were supposed to do their job in peace. The attackers didn't need to overpower defenses, they needed to blend into workflows. And if you're thinking, what could I have done differently as a normal person at a checkout line? That's the punch of this case. The customer can't fix the store's architecture. But it does bring home one lesson anyone can adopt to watch for unusual transactions, set up bank alerts, and talk to your card issuer about automated notifications, small frictions that catch big problems. Now step into another building, different kind of company, a place where security is the product. Hard-lit floors, glass walls, badges, and tokens on lanyards. The emails arriving here are not from strangers in foreign countries. They look like normal office chatter. Subject line, 2011 recruitment plan. A handful of employees receive it. The sender appears to be from inside. The attachment is a spreadsheet. The choice is ordinary: open or delete. One click and a program runs invisibly through a flaw in the software. A backdoor is quietly installed. This is RSA in 2011. If you ever used those key fobs that generate changing numbers, RSA SecurID was the system behind them. And someone had just walked in through a single spear phishing email. It worked for the same reason any illusion does. The audience expects one thing, the magician delivers another. The document wasn't really a file with numbers. It carried code that took advantage of a then unknown bug. The attacker didn't need administrative power yet. They had a toe in the room and time to wander. From here, the technique is patient, simple, and devastating. The intruder maps the internal terrain the same way a new employee would. Where do people store things? Who has access to what? What systems are used for what tasks? Security professionals call this reconnaissance, but it's more like watching office behavior. Find the file servers where secrets live. Find out how the crown jewels are protected. What made this breach so sensitive was the nature of those jewels, information about how tokens are generated and synchronized, the data that ties your token to your login. If attackers could steal enough of that, they could potentially weaken the system's assurance and pivot it to target others. Eventually, chunks of data are bundled up, copied out, and exfiltrated, shipped off the network to a place the attacker controls. No money vanishes in a flash, no screen goes dark. This is intelligence theft, the kind that pays off later, when a separate, more targeted attack uses what was learned here. In the following months, defense contractors reported attempted intrusions that bore those fingerprints. The lesson magnified in headlines: even security vendors can have blind spots, and the weakest moment in the chain is a single distracted click. There is a human ache in that, because the person who opened that file didn't intend to betray anyone. They probably didn't think they were doing anything unusual. The fix is not to turn people into perfect robots. It's to make sure that a single mistake can't cascade into catastrophe. Tighten who can see what, put the crown jewels behind stronger barriers, treat email attachments like uninvited guests, and isolate the systems that manage authentication like they are the heart of the body. If they stop, everything stops. So where do you go from the break in that starts at an employee's inbox? You go upstream. Past the front door, past the lobby, past even the glass walls and lanyards, to the place where trust is manufactured and wrapped into software itself, the supply chain. The invisible assembly line that builds the code you download, signs it with a trusted seal, and pushes it into your network while you sip coffee and click update. Now picture someone switching a component on the belt. Same box, same logo, different insides. SolarWinds 2020, a software company that made a widely used network monitoring tool called Orion, found itself at the center of a quiet storm. Attackers slipped malicious code into a normal software update, a backdoor later dubbed Sunburst. This wasn't a message to an employee. This was a tweak to the factory floor. When customers in government agencies, tech companies, critical infrastructure applied the update, it came with a stowaway. Think of it like this: you buy a sealed bottle from a trusted brand. It's shrink-wrapped, it looks right, and yet something inside has been swapped. The backdoor installed itself alongside legitimate code and then waited days, weeks. It didn't run around screaming, firing off commands. It stretched, listened, checked it was really where it wanted to be. Only then did it quietly reach out to a command server, disguised as normal traffic. The attacker on the other end was choosy. Not every customer who installed the update became a target. They were sifting for quality, not quantity. Once selected, the steps were cautious and refined. Create accounts that look legitimate, blend with the organization's own tools. Read email here, copy documents there, avoid triggering alarms. The goal was not to smash and grab, it was long-term access. And for those who worry about digital signatures on updates, this was the nightmare realized. Even code that looks blessed can carry a secret if the build system itself, the conveyor belt that puts the pieces together, has been compromised. You weren't hacked when you clicked, the hack happened upstream. Discovery didn't come from a single blinking light either. It came from noticing something odd in the logs, like a whisper where there should have been silence. A security firm found that their own tools were being used against them, traced the strange behavior back to the update, and pulled the thread that unraveled the sweater. The ripple was massive. Up to 18,000 customers had installed the tainted update, though only a fraction were deeply compromised. Still, the cost to investigate, rebuild, and regain confidence wasn't measured only in money. It was measured in time, trust, and the realization that the ground beneath our software supply chains wasn't as solid as we thought. If this slow dissection helped you see the patterns instead of just the headlines, take a second to subscribe and stay with us. Every week we unpack another case without hype, just the decisions and the consequences, so you can recognize them before they land in your inbox or on your desk. Now, when you step back from these 3 rooms, the nighttime store, the glass-walled security firm, the software factory floor, you start to see the outline of a single building. It's made of trust. Trust in a vendor to log in without causing harm. Trust in a colleague's email. Trust in an update to be what it says it is. Attackers know that, and they work not by overpowering us, but by rearranging what we already trust into a weapon. Let's thread the timelines. In Target's case, the initial foothold was a vendor login and the ability to traverse a network not divided deeply enough. The escalation was finding those registers and installing memory-scraping malware. The payload was the siphoning of card data in flight, staged internally, exfiltrated outward. The impact was near immediate and very public. Cards reissued, fraud losses, reputational damage, and a measurable hit to the bottom line. In our SAS case, the foothold was a spear phishing email built to blend in. The escalation was lateral movement, learning the map of the house, and reaching the sensitive zone where authentication secrets lived. The payload was theft of information, not of cache-up blueprint that could be reused against others. The impact spread out over months as attackers leveraged what they stole in carefully chosen follow-on operations, and the company undertook a costly effort to restore confidence and replace impacted tokens. In SolarWinds, the foothold wasn't a login or an inbox, it was a compromised build environment. The escalation happened at scale. The tainted update gave attackers a beachhead in thousands of organizations, which they selectively exploited. The payload was a backdoor that allowed remote control and data theft, camouflaged as normal operations. The impact was systemic unease about how we build and trust software, a sprawling investigation, and years of hardening supply chains, from build systems to software bills of materials. Strip away the acronyms and the headlines, and 3 simple lessons emerge, ones you can apply without a security budget. First, turn on multi-factor authentication everywhere you can and use unique passwords managed by a reputable password manager. A stolen password is a dead key if it also needs a second factor you control, and unique passwords keep one breach from unlocking the next door. Second, build a 2-channel verification habit. If an email asks you to open a file, change an invoice, or reset access, don't rush. Verify through another channel you trust. Call the person, message them through a known number, or navigate to the site yourself instead of clicking a link. That pause is oxygen. Third, update and isolate with intention. Keep your systems updated from trusted sources, but also segment your network. Use a guest network for smart devices. Don't let work laptops and home gadgets swim in the same pool, and set up account alerts so unusual activity pings you right away. It's not about paranoia, it's about removing easy paths. If you're thinking this sounds like overkill for a single person, remember, the same patterns scale down. Your home Wi-Fi is a network. Your app store is a supply chain. Your inbox is a front door. Treat them with the same respect you want your bank or your favorite store to treat theirs. One extra barrier at your level prevents your account from becoming someone else's stepping stone. There's another thread that hums through these cases: visibility. In each breach, Warning signs existed, but the signal had to fight through noise. For the retailer, alerts were lost in a sea of routine warnings. For the security company, a single out-of-place attachment snuck past. For the supply chain, the behavior of the backdoor was designed to blend in. Visibility isn't just tools, it's the practice of noticing patterns. In your life, that means reading the login notifications you get, setting up bank and credit alerts, checking app permissions before you grant them, and treating sudden, urgent requests as the fire drills they often are. And finally, consequences. We tell these stories not to point fingers, but to map cause to effect. Every organization involved paid in different currencies money, time, public trust, stress. Real people work nights and weekends to clean up, to rebuild, to face the questions. Real customers took phone calls about fraud they didn't commit. Real engineers stared at code they didn't write and asked how it got there. We retell these moments because they are avoidable in the future. Not perfectly, not absolutely, but measurably. And that measurement is the difference between a scare and a headline. Somewhere tonight, in a small company with a big customer, an email will arrive that looks almost right. Somewhere, an update will ship 2000s. Somewhere, a cashier will smile and say, "Have a good night." The attackers won't be cinematic. They will be patient. They will look for the shortest path that leverages the trust already in place. Our job, yours and mine, is to add just enough friction to break that path. A second factor, a phone call, a guest network. Small choices that make the door feel heavier when the wrong hand reaches for it. 3 doors, 3 small choices, the knock will always come. Tonight you know what it sounds like and what to do when you hear it.